stop till the end, no.
Welcome back, guys. AnimeScale here, and today we have Madara against the Otsutsuki clan. A lot of people asked for this comparison, and I initially didn't want to make it because I thought it wouldn't be that interesting since Madara would lose most of the matchups. But I was actually surprised seeing how well Madara would do against most of them. So, let's get into it then. We are, of course, going to skip all the kid versions of Madara and start with the first one with a perfect Susanoo. At first glance, you might think that Indra is weaker since he never went past just having a base Mangekyo Sharingan, while Madara went way past that pretty fast, but you'd be wrong. Maybe it's because Indra is just a lot closer to the Otsutsuki bloodline, but even with just a Mangekyo, Indra is way stronger than you would think. Indra fought Asura to a standstill, someone who did receive 6 Paths Chakra from Hagoromo. Sure, it's heavily implied that Indra was a fair bit weaker than his brother, but being capable of keeping up with him to the point of being his rival is way beyond anything these versions of Madara would accomplish against any 6-path character. Even with the majestic attire Susanoo, or in his Edo Tensei version, Madara is nowhere near 6-path level yet. Madara does actually approach 6-path level of strength after absorbing Hashirama's Sage Chakra and getting the Rinnegan. It's not that Madara becomes multiple times stronger, it's that he just has an ability that puts this fight on easy mode. Madara now has a Limbo clone that can only be seen with a Rinnegan or sensed with 6-path Senjutsu. Indra, having a Mangekyo and no 6-path Chakra, has no way to either see it or sense it. Even if he ends up keeping up with the Madara he can see, it really won't be that hard for the Limbo clone to just stab him in the back, making this a relatively easy win for Madara. You know those couple of ways of detecting Limbo clones just mentioned? Well, Asura has one of them. With his 6-path Chakra, he'd have no problem sensing Limbo clones. Besides that, Asura is also just plain stronger than Indra was. He can also use truth-seeking orbs, something this version of Madara has no counter to, except to just try and dodge them. Madara can win if he gets lucky with the Gedo Mazo's Phantom Dragons or the Chakra Chains, but in all honesty, I think Asura wins with high diff. Toneri is an even worse matchup for this version of Madara. For one thing, I'd absolutely be amazed if the Tenseigan couldn't just see Limbo clones, but even if it can't, Toneri has 6-path Senjutsu Chakra, so he could at least sense them. Just like Asura, Toneri has the truth-seeking orbs, a thing that Madara has no answer for, and he can also fly, making this fight even more unbalanced. Things do even out a decent bit with this version of Madara. Madara can now fly, and he has his own truth-seeking orbs to counter anything that Toneri does. Besides that, he's just a lot stronger at basically everything. Madara also happens to be a lot smarter than Toneri, so that makes it even more even. I just don't think Madara can match Toneri in terms of raw destructive power though, which will probably end up being the difference. I mean, this Toneri did split the moon in half. All in all, I think Toneri would win in a close fight. I think Madara evens the gap when he finally does end up absorbing the God Tree. While Toneri did get beaten by Naruto, who had both halves of the Nine Tails inside of him, he didn't even bother using 6-path Chakra. So Toneri gets one-shotted by the strongest version of KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto, while Madara fought 6-paths mode Naruto and Sasuke at the same time. To me, it's quite clear that Madara would win this fight, also having a much higher battle IQ than Toneri's. Let's just start off with the obvious. We know basically nothing about Hamura. We have no idea how strong he was, but he was at least stronger than Toneri. After receiving 6-path Chakra from his brother, he was strong enough to keep up with Kaguya and seal her. Later on, he became even more powerful, unlocking the Tenseigan. I still think Madara would win out here. He has every ability to counter anything Hamura could hypothetically do with a Tenseigan, and he has a lot more Chakra to spare, having most of the 10 tails inside of him. But again, it's literally impossible to know how exactly strong Hamura was, so I might be wrong. Let me know your take on this in the comments section below. Now this one is going to be a little controversial. A lot of people probably think that Kinshiki takes this easily. After all, he sort of kept up with adult Sasuke, who was way stronger than End War Arc Sasuke. Kinshiki probably does have the raw power to win. I know the databook says he can split planets, but I find that hard to believe, since he's never done anything even close to that. It's just that, well, he's kind of an idiot. I mean, Kinshiki got trapped by Chijuro, Kurisuchi, and a drained Sasuke, and I'm quite sure that Madara and his 4 Limbo clones would do even better than them. Madara wins this fight mid-difficulty. This is another interesting one that's a little more complicated than most people think. Sure, base Momoshiki probably has the raw strength to win here, but we never actually see him do anything. All Momoshiki did before fusing was absorbing and spamming back jutsu with his Rinnegan. I don't think Madara would fall for that twice. After that, Madara and his 4 Limbo clones could take on Momoshiki with raw taijutsu alone, the same way Naruto and Sasuke had to. This will be a harder fight than the one against Kinshiki for sure, but it is one that Madara would take in the end. And I know that some people will say that Momoshiki is way stronger than I'm giving him credit for because it's stated that Kaguya was afraid of him, but Kaguya was actually afraid of facing 2 Otsutsuki at the same time. So Momoshiki and Kinshiki together, way different from just fighting them one-on-one. Anyway, I think Madara has a good chance against base Momo. Yes, we also have Boruto, since he's officially an Otsutsuki now. Borushiki is way stronger than anyone on this list so far, so on paper, Madara doesn't stand much of a chance, even with the Rinne Sharingan. Remember, Borushiki was so ridiculous he pretty much blitzed Code and was even keeping up with Kawashiki. The only problem is that Borushiki has a pretty big time limit. That might be enough to give Madara the edge if he manages to survive that long. There's also the infinite Tsukiyomi to consider. I doubt Borushiki can resist this, seeing as he doesn't have a perfect Susanoo to block the light like Sasuke did. There is a small chance that Momoshiki would just be immune to this being an Otsutsuki, but I doubt it's the case since nowhere is stated that Otsutsukis are immune to Genjutsu. I think that Madara's Limbo can hold off Borushiki until Madara casts the world-scale Genjutsu. I do think Madara can win here, but it would be very, very hard. Kawashiki is stronger than Borushiki. That is pretty much implied since Naruto had to step in to keep Kawashiki from killing his son after all. This fight will be a lot harder with Madara having to somehow dodge chakra rods that even Naruto and Sasuke couldn't. Madara doesn't have Limbo as an aid either, since Kawashiki could either see them with his dojutsu or just sense them. After that, well, we all remember Jigen destroying hundreds of Naruto's clones with chakra rods. 4 Limbo clones seems a lot more doable than that. Madara only really has the infinite Tsukiyomi here. We have no idea if Kawashiki would be immune to this, or if he'd have even given Madara the time to use it. If literally everything went perfectly, Madara would win out here, but it's more than likely that Kawaki would pierce Madara with multiple chakra rods, preventing him from casting the Genjutsu. Kawaki takes this. Hagoromo is another pretty bad matchup for Madara. We've been talking about the infinite Tsukiyomi. Well, Hagoromo has a perfect Susanoo to counter it, so that isn't a big deal. Hagoromo did state that One-Eyed Madara was approaching him in strength, but I don't believe he ever really closed the gap. Hagoromo also had the complete 10 tails, something that Madara never had since Naruto always had 1/2 of the 9 tails. I think the gap here is just too big for Madara to close. This would probably be another pretty one-sided fight. Momoshiki is a weird one because we barely ever see him actually do anything. Even fused, all he really did was use taijutsu, absorb and spam back jutsu, and make wooden dragons and stone golems. Not exactly super impressive on the surface. Fused Momoshiki is however way stronger than Momoshiki himself was. This one is pretty easy. Kaguya was so afraid of the idea of a fused Momoshiki that she went out of her way to make an army of white Zetsu. Meanwhile, Sasuke himself said that Kaguya was way stronger than Madara when she appeared. You can see where this is going. I don't see this being a close fight at all. I mean, sure, I guess Madara could still try the infinite Tsukiyomi, but that's a pretty small hope at best. This one kind of speaks for itself. Kaguya was a way bigger threat at the time than Madara was, to the point where Sasuke said that the two couldn't even be compared. Sure, Kaguya isn't exactly the brightest out there, but brains and battle experience can only get you so far. Kaguya can do everything from summoning entire dimensions to one-shotting people with her ash-killing bones to merging with nature itself. I don't see what Madara can do here, especially if Kaguya just ups and leaves him in a different dimension because she doesn't feel like dealing with him. Remember, Madara had to steal Kamui just to get his other eye back. I don't even know if this is worth talking about, just remember everything we said about Kawashiki and make it a lot worse. Isshiki would probably be able to blitz Madara before he even realized what was happening. And that would be the end of that. If you did decide to play around, however, then Isshiki does have a time limit Madara can work with. Unfortunately, the time limit is like a day, and I don't see Madara surviving more than 5 minutes. Even if Madara somehow managed to pull off the infinite Tsukiyomi, I doubt that would work out, seeing as Isshiki could just, nope, I'm not staying here and go to a different dimension. Isshiki wins this with mid to low difficulty. That's it for the list. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below, and if you have any suggestions for future videos, leave those below as well. And I'll see you all next time. It's AnimeScale out. Bye.